Hey there, Rebels. Happy Fat Tuesday. Today is the day we feast because tomorrow we fast. I'm Nicole, your guide on this podcast that invites you to be a Rebel Saint. And if you haven't guessed it already, we are taking a deep dive into the heart of Lent today. So grab a comfy spot and let's explore what it means to journey through Lent with purpose. All right, friends, Lent is an extraordinary time for Catholics all over the world. It's a time of reflection, sacrifice, and spiritual growth. And I got a confession for you. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, but here goes. So for the longest time, and I do mean most of my entire life, I used to think of Lent as, just a time when we got to give up something we really enjoyed for 40 days. Can you relate? But let me tell you, Lent is so much more than that. It's a time of transformation and renewal, a time to prepare ourselves to receive the most amazing gift of all, the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. So for the longest time, Lent for me was just about giving up something, mainly chocolate. But, one day that all changed. I was working in a chapel, and my friend Alana, who is a beautiful soul and a super smart Catholic, theologian, she knows everything Catholic. I admire her so much. So she asked me, hey, what are you gonna, what's gonna be your Lenten fast? And I was like, well, I don't want to do chocolate again because last year I tried that and I totally failed and it sucked. And she looked at me and she's like, well, why don't you give up one of the deadly sins? And I was like, huh? What? Isn't it huh? I didn't know what the heck she was talking about. And she's like, yeah, for Lent, look to the, the 7 deadly sins and see if there's an area of your life where maybe you're a little more, leaning toward that you could use a fast from, that your life would be improved without having this in your life. So friends, as a quick reminder, the 7 deadly sins are also known as the capital sins or called cardinal sins, and they're a group of vices recognized by Christian tradition, particularly within our Catholic theology and moral teaching. And they're called deadly sins because they're considered to lead to spiritual death if not repented and corrected. And quick reminder, they're pride, greed, also known as avarice, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, aka anger, and sloth. Now, if you'd like a quick lesson on, the 7 deadly sins, go back and have a listen to our podcast episode from last week, because I kind of go into them a little more in detail, and it's actually a pretty quick episode. It won't take you that long. Okay, back to my conversation with my friend. I hadn't ever heard of this. I hadn't even considered it a practice during Lent to give up a habit or vice versa. I always just thought, again, we had to give up something we really liked. This was a light bulb moment for me. Literally, I was I had a light bulb above my head for days when I was considering this. Lent wasn't just about sacrificing chocolate for 40 days. Are you seriously? I could turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel. What? Huh? Who knew? I know saying it out loud, it's so obvious, but I don't know. You don't know what you don't know, friends. So that Lent, I chose to give up anger. I was a young mom to 2 boys, and my husband was deployed, and I was pretty irritated a lot, which meant my temper with my kids was short. I'm really embarrassed to say. Now, I can't say it was perfect during those 40 days, but I found in having this desire to rid myself of this habit, of this, way that I was falling easy into this, just irritability or anger, that I would correct myself and I would restart. Like I would, say to my boys, guys, I'm sorry. Like mom lost her temper, or mom was not as patient as she could have been with you. Can we restart? And even if they were the ones that were like acting up, like I was modeling the behavior. I was modeling myself after Christ. And you know what happened? My parenting improved for sure. But so did my outlook. I lost the irritability that I was having. And I don't know if you're a military kid or you know someone who is, but if you ask their parent, like the one who stays home and doesn't deploy, it's like a Murphy's Law. When things go wrong when you don't have your partner there to support you, like it's crazy. And certainly things did go wrong, and it comes in threes, just to let you know. But I was okay with it. I was just like, all right, we'll just get through this, And I mean, I complained. I'm sure I did because I am human. But it wasn't like it wasn't a thing. Like it was just like, all right, whatever. Like figure it out. And that was a practice that I continue for my Lent to this day. Like every Lent, I look at an area where my life needs to be improved, where I'm doing things that maybe are keeping me from growing closer to God, and I try to eliminate them. Okay. And, friends, again, like I said, it's not easy. You will mess up, but when you mess up, it doesn't mean you messed up for the entire day, the entire time. Lent is not a sprint. It is a marathon of 40 days. And, yes, Jesus spent those 40 days fasting in his desert, and, he was tempted, but he was Jesus. We're going to give him to our temptations sometimes. And when we do, we just have to acknowledge it and try to correct it. Okay. And what we'll find is that as we prepare ourselves with this purpose, with this intention, something greater happens to us. So how do you prepare? How do you actually do it? Well, there are 3 key areas that the church teaches us to focus on during Lent, and they are prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And these 3 practices help us prepare for the biggest event on our Christian calendar, which is Easter and not Christmas. And so, but for those of you who are counting, I got to do 40 days. If you look at the calendar between Ash Wednesday and Easter, you will find that there are more than 40 days. And that's because Lent is not counted on Sundays, which are feast days. So yes, you can have the chocolate, and other feast days that happen within the Lenten season. Okay, so yes, it's technically longer than 40 days. Okay, but those 3 tenets: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Let's start with prayer. Prayer isn't just about reciting the words you learned in your first communion class, okay? It's about building a relationship with God. It's about spending time with him like you would a friend. And friends, the thing when I first decided to give up anger, right? To give up that deadly sin where I was finding that I was not being as I should. The thing that helped me correct that negative behavior and attitude I was experiencing was prayer. Hands down, for sure. And so in addition to giving up anger that Lent, I committed to praying the rosary every day. And when I prayed the rosary, I reflected on our Holy Mother and her example, okay? And when it was most challenging, when I found that, me parenting my boys, or maybe when they were the most challenging, I asked her to intercede for me, to help me be a better, more patient and loving mother. It changed my entire Lenten experience. Like I said, it wasn't always easy. I messed up a lot. But the moments of connection with God and our Mother in Heaven were transformational for me on so many levels. I can't stress enough how powerful prayer is, because it allows us to connect with God. And during Lent, we are called to deepen our relationship with God through prayer. And yes, the rosary is an excellent example of prayer that can help us reflect on the life of Christ and our Holy Mother. But there are other ways you can choose to pray, okay? Especially if like you feel like you don't get anything from the rosary. So the other tenet, or key area for Lent is fasting. And again, fasting isn't just about giving up chocolate or like hot showers or, it's about breaking free from the things that are holding you back from God. So yes, fasting is an essential aspect of Lent. And by giving up something we love or breaking a bad habit, we are acknowledging our weaknesses and turning our focus towards God, right? Fasting helps us to recognize that our physical needs, like when we are fasting from things that we love or, physical things that make us feel comforted, it's teaching us that the physical needs aren't the most important things in our lives. It allows us to focus on our spiritual growth. When you decide what you're going to fast from, what you want to ask is anything in my life stopping me from fully worshiping God? And then take those steps to remove those barriers, So, yes, we fast. We fast particularly from food on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, and we abstain from meat on all the Fridays during Lent, okay? But Lent is not a time about, going on a diet, losing 10 pounds. It's about choosing to fast from the things that are separating us from God, especially, So yes, if you choose to fast from a particular food that you love, if I were to do it right now, it'd probably be hot Cheetos because, oh my goodness, I love those things and they're not good for me. So yeah, I would make that sacrifice. And, every time I had the desire to eat a hot Cheeto, I would give up that desire to God and ask him to put a desire in my heart to help someone else to do better. Okay. But again, look for things that are because, Cheetos is not keeping me from God, right? But what could be keeping you from God or keeping you or wasting so much of your time that you're not prioritizing your relationship with God, right? That's the key here. So what is it? What can you fast on from the thing that is keeping you from prioritizing God? Is it video games? Is it TikTok? Too much Netflix? Are you not going to church on Sundays because you have sports games? Well, again, go on Saturday, figure it out. Okay. The other thing is almsgiving. When we share our blessings with others, it's an expression of love and our appreciation for the blessings that God has given us. Giving to others isn't just a nice thing. It's a fundamental part of being a follower of Christ. And, yes, donating to charity is certainly like donating funds, like monetary funds to charity is a thing. But as teens, you might not have like a whole, heck of a lot of money to do that with, right? So what do you have that you can give freely? Well, you can give your time. You can volunteer, volunteer at your church. Say, hey, is there any place that needs, do the windows need cleaning? How can I help? Right? You can do stuff like that. You can volunteer at a soup kitchen. You can, be kind to those around you. Almsgiving is not about showing God's love to the world almsgiving is about showing God's love to the world in tangible ways. By giving to others, we're showing God's love and compassion to the world. Like we are being that light. And, we recognize that everyone is part of God's world, God's family. All right. So did you know that the actual word Lent comes from an Old English word, Lenten? It means springtime. Lent is a time of growth and renewal, just like the spring when nature comes back to life. But Lent is also a time of transformation and renewal for you. So, friends, let's use this time to grow closer to God, to become better versions of ourselves, and to show God's love to the world. So, rebels, as we journey through this Lent together, let's do it purposefully. Let's pray, fast, and give intentionally, knowing that these practices are not just for 40 days, but for life. Remember, friends, Lent is an opportunity to grow closer to God and to become better versions of ourselves. It's a time to reflect, to sacrifice, and to show God's love to the world. So let's embrace this season of transformation and renewal with open hearts and minds. Well, that's all for today's Rebel Saints episode. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to tackle Lent head on. Remember, you've got this. I'm praying for you. And see you next time. Bye, Rebels.